Hello there. So I'm gonna continue working on this problem, trying to color these I references and the J references correctly. And I suspect that the problem is I'll just debug the problem the same way I've been doing, which is to pick one of the variable references that's been colored incorrectly, and I'll put in a conditional print statement here. For that particular one, and look at the parent scope and see, so try to figure out what went wrong there by doing that. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is actually a not an assignment but a variable reference. I'm looking at the wrong traverse function, so I want to be looking at this one. Okay, I'm going to move this printout to here, but I want to look for I, the reference to I. This particular reference is on line 22. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna look for the I reference on line 22. That is the first one. So, and at that point, the parent scope looked like this. It's got one, 2, and 3 scopes. So scope number 1 should be its own scope, maybe? Let me see. It has cell and char, okay? It has cell and char, which tells me it's actually this scope here, the first scope. And then the next scope after that has row in it, and that's where the mistake is. So this scope actually needs to have I in it as well, in addition to row. In order to make that happen, though, we have to deal with this for loop separately, or as a special case. Because the way by which we're collecting assignment in the second recursive function, that doesn't do that. So you actually need to drill into this for loop. No, it does appear to be doing it, actually. So what's going on here? Perhaps I will put a console.log, put a little probe in here. So I maybe do an if statement as well. So if, well, I won't do an if statement actually. I'll just print out the loop variable and see if it comes out. What did I call it? I said for loop. I don't see for loop. That's probably because it didn't actually drill down into it. Because this code says to not go into a for loop, probably. Yeah, I think that's probably why. So for a for loop, we might have to do it here. All right, let me go to this scope of the code here. Okay, so at this scope of the code, we're saying we're not want to traverse each of the statements that aren't this is a code block. So the place where I wanted to do it is actually here. Just traversing this code block to collect all of the variable assignments to be used, but this variable is actually outside of the code block. It's in the for loop, which is the parent of the code block. So I think what I need to do is actually in this original traverse function, when it does encounter a for loop, which would be here, I actually need this variable the scope used here needs to be not the scope, actually, if that makes sense. Or it needs to be, the scope needs to be put into the scope of the body, whatever that would have been, I think. When I'm looking at this code block, there's a potentially I may need to add additional so-called variable assignments, or perhaps variable definitions, in particular this one. And later on for the function case, it would be this one. This one is inside this scope, actually, even though lexically it's not declared inside the scope, but in reality it behaves as if this was declared inside the scope. So perhaps we need to pass in an extra variable definitions, extra var defs, and this parameter list is getting quite long now. That's unfortunate. For all the calls to traverse, I'm gonna add this parameter now. Actually, no, this is probably okay. Okay, and then I need to add that here. Does the code still work? It still does. Now I need to make use of that variable. So now, oh gosh. Yeah, and here, I guess this can be my extra var defs here. Does that make sense? Let me think. Yeah, I'll spread it over this guy. So this is gonna enable me to pass in extra variable definitions in the case of the for loop, which I will do here by saying, well, that guy is an extra variable definition. Let's see if that works. Ouch. Line 100. Oh, okay. Alright. The extra variable definition doesn't have a scope ID in it, so I'm gonna try to do this instead. Scope ID. Scope ID, we'll use this, the current scope ID, and the node is the vardef. Let me see if that works. Yes, that worked. I think. No, not totally. Well, this I is red, but this J should be blue, and it's not. This I, even down here, is, why is this J colored wrong? Okay. Everything else seems to be correct though, except for the J. Alright, let's debug the J. Okay. Alright. Where would this J be? This J is a var reference. Let's look at this one. And that's on line 24. That's a var reference, so it's here. I'm gonna print out the information associated with that one. So line, I said line 24, yeah. Okay, at that point, oh, why don't we also print, well, no. You know what? Yeah, let me also print out the extra var defs. Extra var defs. Okay. Oh, let me think. This J is an extra var def. But J is also in here. Wait. J is already in this scope. J is also in the previous scope. That should not happen. J is in the same scope as cell and char. So I think maybe the extra var def should not be passed through, first of all. Except for that, so it shouldn't be passed through like I've been doing like that, because I don't want to use it unless it's for that very special case of there's a for loop and it's passing it to the body, and the body is gonna be the code block. Okay, that's a little wonky actually, but yeah, I don't have a better idea for now. I don't want to pass through that extra var defs. So I'm gonna give these guys empty arrays instead. But it's only gonna pass in for this for loop case where we're using the extra var defs. Oh, get rid of them. All right. How does it look now? Oh, I think I fixed it. So the J, yeah, the J is colored this correct color now. Great. Wonderful. Okay. This is mostly working. Still not ideal because actually the fact that it had to use so many IDs for scopes, it's kind of unsatisfactory. You know, because I would have liked to use the colors just like red, green, yellow instead of having to exhaust all of them. So perhaps what we could do is save the number of times we have to assign an ID. Have to call the assign ID function. Here we can save by only assign an ID if that scope has newly defined variables in it. And that would matter because like this scope doesn't have new variables in it. But that would mean I can't assign the ID here because until I traverse the child. So this is where I'm at the parent level, like here, or it could be here. I don't know. And I'm about to traverse this child, or I could be here and I'm about to traverse this child, which has a child scope in it. So it could be that I don't know if it's gonna have variables defined in it until I actually traverse it. So this has to sort of go inside. This we have to sort of move this line down inside of that. And where would that go? I guess the place where would figure out if we have any variables. I guess I should call this var defs instead of results. This is var defs. All right, did I break it? Yes, I did. My results. Okay, so this is var defs. Okay, I would know after having collected these var defs, if the length of var defs is at 0 at this point, then I would not need to assign an ID to myself. Let me attempt this. So if var def's length is greater than 0, then we're gonna need a new scope. Perhaps I'm just gonna reassign. Reassign what scope ID is, and let that be the end of stuff. And don't do that here. So this still passing the scope ID here. Let me see if that worked. Not exactly. This eye should be yellow. but we're closer. We are closer. I'm going to decrease the next ID so that the first time it calls, so that the main body, so I can get the red here. That's the first color. I guess that doesn't matter too much. Okay, I'm not gonna do that. But we have a bug. We do have a bug. The bug is this eye should be yellow and not green. That eye should have been collected. That eye, this eye here, should have been collected here with the scope ID. But I want this to be... Oh, I see. This doesn't work anymore because before the change, we created the scope ID before iterating this for loop. Now we created within the scope of this block, which kind of excludes this chunk basically. That's nasty. Although we do have access to it at that point because this is the loop variable. Oh yeah, so we just don't do this, but we defer it to when we're dealing with the block to do that. Yes, we can do this, I think. So if when we have access to this, okay. If this is very nasty. So if we got some extra var-devs, as in the case of this I or this J, or this event for that matter, then we're gonna push them to the results using this scope ID that's just been assigned. And okay, this is an arrow function that returns an object. This parentheses here, make sure that it means returning an object instead of code block here. Let me see if this worked. I have a syntax error. Do I need yet another parenthesis? No. That didn't work as I planned. The results I'm talking about is this results. Okay, did this even happen? Yes, it did. Or if we just don't do this, then what happens? Oh, this still gets colored for some reason. Why? I was not expecting that. Oh, because I was traversing this iterable. No, that's iterable, not loop variable. Oh, it's pushed down here. I see. Got it. I got it. Okay. This scope ID needs to be this scope ID. So, so I think I need to move this. No. Or I could loop back through and change them. Oh. Okay. That's really nasty. But this is just temporary solution. Because I just want to test my hypothesis that this is what caused the problem. So I think what the problem is, let me explain it first. So these extra vardefs are the ones, the extra, like this is an extra vardef, which was declared outside of the syntax of this block, but the I should still be treated as if I is inside this block. So that's how why we needed this extra vardefs, and we have this I here. But the scope ID hasn't been determined yet until this point. So this guy, we determined that we need to assign a new ID because we have any vardefs at all, including the extra one and the ones that were declared within this scope here, okay? So if we have any variable definitions, then we do need to assign a scope ID, but the scope ID attached to the extra vardef, we need to update it to this newly assigned ID. So that's why I'm going to here. This actually loops through all of them, not just the extra ones. I suppose we could actually loop through. No, we can't actually do that because this is a map. Looping through this won't help. I need to modify the existing ones. So, and my disk is low, so I may have to stop recording this video very soon. But let's hope this works. It does work. Okay, so this is looking great to me. So this I is yellow, the row is yellow, table is referencing the green. The I here is also yellow. And then, I guess I didn't write any code to deal with the function parameter, and that will need to be done at some point. But this is yellow, which is correct because row was defined up here. This is green is correct because black back row was defined over here. And the J is blue, cell is blue, char is blue, and so forth. So all of this is looking quite good. Okay, I've I've done this for long enough. I'm glad I could get it into a pretty satisfactory stage. I'm gonna stop this video. I hope that you enjoyed watching me struggle.